Russel Kingston.
Kingston, Kingston.
Right.
Okay. And where were you born, Russell?
I was born in Lyon County, Kentucky.
Okay. How's that far? How far is that from here?
About 225.
Okay, so a few hours.
Yeah.
What's your date of birth?
12/21/31.
And how old are you?
82.
82. And you're married to?
Mary Lou.
Mary Lou. How long you been married?
It'll be 61 years in November the 7th.
When'd you get married?
November the 7th, 1953.
You got married right after you came back from the war.
I come back from overseas in September and August. I left Korea the 11th of August of 53 and got home right around the 1st of September.
And you met somebody or knew somebody?
Well, I didn't know her. I met her a couple of days after I was at home, and I said, "That's a one I want."
Very good. So Mary Lou got a good catch.
Yeah.
And you have four children. Russell, Wade,
Right.
Jeffrey, Wilma, and Perry.
Perry.
Very good. And
2 grandchildren. And I've also got 2 great-grandchildren.
wow, the two grandchildren are Justin and John Russell, right?
Those are my grandchildren.
And the
yeah.
great children.
But I've got 2 great-grandchildren, and one of them's named I can't even think of their names.
Keenly.
Is a little girl, and the little boy, I'll think of his name shortly.
Okay, we'll come back to that. What's your educational background?
I had 8 years of education.
K through 8?
Yeah, I was a farmer, helping my dad, and I decided that
What kind of farming? What farming?
just, corn, tobacco, hay, stuff like that.
Okay, so this is the jobs you had prior to going into the military?
Yes.
Farming? Okay. Were you drafted or did you enlist?
I enlisted.
Enlisted?
I joined.
When did you join up?
I joined up the 11th of May, 1950.
And what branch?
Army.
Army, okay. Okay. Did you get any ranks? Did you become a general or something?
When I went in, back then, the rank was RCT,
What's that?
recruit.
Oh,
And after I got out of basic, I went to private. And then when I went to Korea, I went to PFC. And my company sergeant put me in for a rank, but I was captured and didn't make it. The papers, I guess, got captured or something.
the company commander?
Yeah.
He wanted to put
And
you in
then
the...
then after I was released from the prison camp, they gave me a rank, which made me corporal.
So the company commander wanted to give you a rank,
Yeah.
raise in rank,
Yeah,
but you were
he
captured.
wanted to give me one while I was on the front lines, in battle.
And then when you got, after you came back, you became a corporal?
I made corporal, yes, sir.
What unit were you in?
First Cav.
First Cavalry?
K Company. K Company, First Cav.
And what dates were you in Korea?
I got there in, the last of September of 1950.
And you were there until after you were released and everything?
I was there until the 11th of August of 1953. and I boarded the boat,
And came home August. You got released and
came home on a boat. I got on a boat somewhere between the 11th and the 16th because
what do you remember about your first impressions? Where did you land? When you went to Korea, what place?
we went to Tokyo, Japan.
Okay.
When we flew, when I left home by train. And I rode a train all the way to Seattle, Washington.
So you went to Tokyo first.
Yes, sir.
And then
I went to Tokyo, and
that was September.
September.
And what'd you do in Tokyo?
I just stayed there overnight, and we boarded the train the next morning and went to Sasebo, Japan.
How do you spell that? Do you have any idea? Sasebo?
Sasebo, I don't know,
Sasebo.
Sasabo or
Okay.
something, you know.
So you went to
But
Sasebo,
anyway, it was a Navy port.
Sasebo, Japan Navy port.
Yeah, and we shipped out there and went to Korea.
Where in Korea?
Busan.
Busan. What do you remember about your first impressions of seeing Busan?
Well, when we got off the ship and walked to the top of the ridge, there was hundreds and hundreds of North Koreans between the railroad tracks, and they were sitting, every one of them. They had American guards on them.
As soon as you got off the ship?
Yeah, as soon as we left the ship, it went up into Busan. And they were sitting there with their hands behind their head.
Of North Korean prisoners?
North Korean prisoners, yeah.
What'd you think of that?
At that time, I was young. I didn't know too much about it.
So they were just, they had their hands behind their back, or
Had them behind their back and behind their heads, you know. Heads dropped, and there was several hundred on the boat that I was on, which, you know, was being sent in as replacements, you know, for different companies.
oh, you were the replacements?
I was a replacement, see, and they told me and another boy that we was going to K Company First Cal, and I asked him where there was, and he said somewhere between here and the 38th parallel. You know, that's the answer he gave me, and I said, well, how do I get there? And his answer was, you've got 2 feet, haven't you?
The captain or commander?
It was the one that was given, you know, telling us where we was going to, you know.
So an officer told you that?
Yeah, and after he said, well, you got 2 feet. So
Start walking?
me and my buddy, we started walking, and there was a railroad track. So he said, let's ride the train. And it was moving real slow. So we ran out to the tracks, 30, 40 yards, and we jumped on the train, and we rode it, I guess, maybe 200 feet or so, and the engine on the train went into a tunnel, and so he shut her down. He was to protect the engine, you know, on the train.
Why did he stop? He just stopped to protect the engine?
He just completely stopped her. So we sat there for a while, and then we said, well, we're not going to get to go on train, so we might well walk. So we went back out to the road and started walking and caught rides on trucks, army trucks and all, you know. we'd ride maybe a mile or half a mile. We'd have to get off it and get on another one, you know. So finally got on one, and I asked the driver, I said, do you know where the 1st Cavalry is? He said, yeah. And I said, well, that's where I want off. And we rode practically all night.
So you were walking and then basically hitchhiking?
Yeah, hitchhiking. So it was breaking daylight when I went into K Company 1st Cal.
So all night you walked and hitchhiked?
Yeah, it taken us all night to get up there. Then on it was.
And what town did you meet him in? Do you remember?
Oh, it was before you crossed the 38th parallel. Because I know in a day or two after I joined up with the 1st Cal, while we crossed the 38th parallel.
So what were your duties?
Mine, I started out with mortar ammunition.
So you carried the boxes of
I
mortar?
carried a full case of mortar ammunition.
How much would they weigh?
They said it weighed 48 pounds,
And were those
and I only weighed 135.
were those like the really big mortar shells?
60 millimeter mortar.
So your job was to carry those? You carried like 2 at a time? Or 3?
No, I carried one
One?
case on a pack board.
Okay.
And then I carried it for, I don't know, a week or 10 days. And we got some more replacements in.
How many shells in a case?
There was 12 in those cases.
Wow, so they had one man just carrying 12.
Yeah, one
Wow.
man would carry 12, yeah.
And how many were you doing that? There was like several of you guys?
No, that we only had just 1 or 2 cases. You know,
So 2 guys carrying?
Yeah, 2 guys carrying.
So you had to have replenishment all the time. They had to keep giving you, they had to bring up more shells, didn't they?
Yeah, but I mean, we'd carry them, and I would get off. I got off of them. I told the sergeant, I said, I'm tired carrying these ammunition. He said, well, I'll let somebody else have it. So he gave it to another soldier, and he put me carrying either a 30 caliber or a 50 caliber machine gun bullets, and I carried two cases of those.
30 millimeter?
30 millimeter, yeah.
That's a pretty big
Yeah,
machine gun.
but I had 2 cases of those I had to carry.
Were they heavier than the mortar shells?
Well, they pulled on your arms all the time, see.
They had like ropes on the cases or something?
No, I didn't have nothing to go over shoulders or nothing. I just had the handles
They
on
had
them.
handles
Yeah.
on them. Rope handles or wooden handles? Or?
Metal handles.
Okay.
And I carried those for a week or 10 days. And I had a good first sergeant. He thought a lot of me. And I told him, I said, I'm tired carrying this ammunition. He said, well, I'll put somebody else on it. So he put another guy on that, and he gave me 2 bazooka rounds. And they were pretty heavy.
2 cases of?
No, just two rounds. And one of them was in a container, and still, you know, they had how the old coffee cans, you know, remember how you used to open them, you know?
Yeah.
Well, you would twist them.
Oh, they were sealed up.
They were sealed. One of them was, but one of them had electrician wire tied on the rear and the front, and I could put it over my shoulder.
Okay. But they were sealed so nothing can get in them. And
One of them was sealed, but one of them wasn't.
one was open,
One of them was open,
ready to go.
and it was dangerous if I could
Oh.
throw it against the ground, you know.
Oh boy, you had to
But
be careful.
anyway, I couldn't carry two and carry my ammunition and my rifle and my food. So I would, there's a lot of little Korean boys, 8 and 10 years old and 12. I would pick me out one and I would let him carry that full round, of ammunition. He was a North Korean.
Really?
Yeah,
He was friendly.
yeah. And the sergeant told me, he said, Kingston said, at the end of the day, you make sure you feed that kid. I said, I will. And at the end of the day, why, I would put my C rations out front and motion to him, and he'd pick them up and look at them. He couldn't read what was on them, and he would shake them. And if he'd heard it rattle, he didn't want it. Just like
This.
you get one C ration that had candy and chocolate and stuff like that in it, But if it rattled, he wouldn't take it. He would take one that wouldn't.
Like beans or fruit
Yeah,
or something.
beans or corned beef and hash or something.
You wanted the solid one.
Yeah, and then I'd tell him to go, and he'd go back home.
Oh.
Say, next morning, I'd get me a new one.
Oh. So they were willing.
Yeah,
It's
they
funny
were,
that
they
the-
were willing because they were starving to death.
Yeah, it's funny that the North Koreans
Yeah,
children.
yeah, but it was North Koreans.
Wow.
No, we was in North Korea.
Yeah. So that's the only. They probably didn't know anything.
They didn't know no better.
No. So how young were they? Like teenagers or
Yeah,
little kids?
they were 10 or 12 years old,
Okay.
maybe smaller, I don't know. But I know they helped me a lot.
So what was life like besides just carrying the ammunition?
Well, it was lonely in a way because you had to sleep by yourself every night, and you was away from home.
What was the weather like?
It rained a lot. It rained quite a bit.
Did you have a poncho?
Yeah.
Did you outside or in houses? Did you stay outside? Or?
Outside most of the time, yeah. Then when we was inside when we got to the capital of North Korea, Pyongyang. We stayed in a hospital building for about, I don't know, 3 or 4 days. And our first sergeant told us to turn our ammunition in, our extra ammunition, that we was, said the war's over, said we're going to Japan and pull a parade for MacArthur. That was in probably October sometime,
October 1950?
Yeah. Said we're gonna pull a parade for MacArthur.
He was coming into Pyongyang?
Yeah, and after
You were going to a parade?
yeah, we was gonna be in the parade, and then the next day, he said, and they called everybody out and put us back in line and reissued ammunition. Says, we got orders to push north.
So the war wasn't ending.
That's when the Chinese came in, say, so we pushed north. And I wound up in the Yellow River in a POW camp.
So what they told you wasn't true?
No. But they didn't know it at the time, I don't think. But we did have the Koreans whipped until,
So we reissued the ammo and guns.
no, just ammo. We still had our guns.
Okay. And you were told to march north?
More told us to march north, so that's what we did.
And where'd you wind up in the north?
Wound up in Pyeongtaong. You know how to spell it?
No.
Pyucktong.
And that's how
North
far
of-
north of the parallel?
I don't know. I was captured about 30 miles north of the parallel.
Okay. Were you wounded?
Yeah, I was shot in the face,
Whoa.
and
When did you get shot in the face? In north of Pyeongtaek?
I got shot in the face the morning of November the 2nd of 1950.
How'd this occur?
I don't know.
You just were walking?
I was retreating back after the Chinese attacked us. I was retreating back, and some.
You were told to retreat?
Yeah,
Retreating back from...
I was retreating back out of battle, and for different positions, and I don't know whether it was a mortar shell or what it was that did it. Hit me in the side of the face.
So shrapnel probably?
Shrapnel.
So what happened after you got hit? Did you go down or...
Well, after I got hit, I got in this ditch.
You ran into the ditch or landed in the ditch?
No, I run and got in a ditch, and they were shooting foreign. The Chinese was, and there was Americans on one end of it and Chinese on the other. And they were shooting up and down that ditch at each other. And when I got in that ditch, I got under a bank, that was on the ditch, I got in a little curve
and got in the curve.
and the bullets was going by me. So they finally slacked up and quit firing, and there was another guy that jumped in the ditch. I don't know who he was. He jumped in the ditch, and he got in there close to me, and he got up and he hollered and he said, "I'm American, I'm a coming." So he got up and he run and got over in a rice paddy. And after he made it, I stood up and I hollered, "I'm coming, I'm American." And so I run and I got over in the ditch. And then we proceeded from there down through the rice paddy. And my first sergeant was in front of me.
Now you had a carbine at the time? Or
And I had an M1. I never was lucky enough to get a carbine.
Okay, so you're
I got
running and shooting at the same
I
time?
got that old heavy one.
So you're running and shooting at the same
Running
time?
and shooting at the same time. So, but my first sergeant was in front of me, and he had a GI blanket. He had it rolled up and stuck in his pistol belt.
So he had a pistol rolled up in his
He had he
blanket?
carried a pistol, and his belt. You know how those big wide belts
Yep.
are. But anyway, he had that GI blanket under his belt. It looked like a horse's tail.
Yeah.
And our troops were firing at us. They didn't know that we wasn't Chinese. So we was down behind a rice paddy levee, which was about as probably tall as the bottom part of that bed. And they could see him moving
crawling and stuff.
Yeah, crawling. He was crawling, and I was crawling right behind him, and my buddy was crawling behind me. We was trying to get, around, and they got a shooting at him, and I could see him. I read, my head up, and I could see the dirt moving. And I told him, I said, Sergeant, you better get a little bit lower. And he said, Kingston said, I'm as low as I can get. And then moments later, he hollered, and he said, that one got me. And he was shot in the hip. And me and my buddy told him, said, tell you what do, you get up and you run as far as you can go. And when you fall, we'll get up and we'll come to you and we'll drag you on in to safety. And he made it about 100 yards, I guess, and fell. Then we jumped up and we run and got him by the pant legs and just give him a flip over into a ditch. Or he would, wouldn't be fired on. Then they found out then that we was Americans and they quit firing on us.
Wonder why the Chinese stopped firing on you.
I don't know. It wasn't daylight. It wasn't completely daylight, and you can't tell who a man is out there, 200 or 300 yards away.
It wasn't Americans shooting at you, it was Chinese, right?
It was Americans are shooting at us.
Oh, it was friendly fire.
Yeah, friendly fire.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then we got on into the perimeter.
The guy that got up and said we're Americans and we're coming,
Yeah,
they kept shooting at you anyway?
yeah,
Because it was dark.
yeah. It was dark. See, they couldn't tell one from another.
When it got light, did they realize what they were
Yeah,
doing?
they realized what I was doing, and all the firing quit.
They saw you and running, and
Yeah.
then when the other guys got up,
Then the Chinese were digging a ditch into us. We was in a perimeter we had dug for the ones that were shot, wounded. We had them in a perimeter. We just got in there with shovels and throwed the dirt out just any way to make it lower, where they couldn't be seen just from the naked eye,
So when he said he was Americans and coming, he didn't know.
No, he didn't know.
Now, when did you get your shrapnel?
I got the shrapnel the morning of the 2nd of November.
And this retreating took place on November 1st?
No,
The
the
November
Chinese
2nd.
hit us the morning
What day were you in the ditch? November 1st?
November the 2nd.
November the 2nd.
Uh-huh.
So all this has happened on the November 2nd. November 2nd in the nighttime
Uh-huh.
was all in the ditch and everything.
Yeah, that's when everything mostly hit.
About what time was that? Like midnight or?
It was before daylight.
So like 2 o'clock in the morning or something? Or
Later than that, I imagine.
like 3 a.m. or something?
Yeah, it was before daylight.
Okay, so you're retreating, you're in the ditch, and the sergeant shot the other guy, and then what happened?
That's when we started up to
You started retreating more?
started retreating on out, and we come into this perimeter we had dug, or that was dug before we got there,
Right.
and we stayed there all day long.
And where were you staying? What town was that?
We stayed in this perimeter that they had dug. We stayed in there all day, and I don't know, half the night or 2/3 of the night. And then the Chinese, there were so many of them that they were digging trenches, and they just dug right on into us,
They actually dug trenches to you?
Yeah. There wasn't nothing we could do but just watch them.
They were digging them by hand?
Yeah, shovels. And then they got so close to us, why, they give orders for us to retreat.
About how many enemy were there? Thousands?
Oh, no, probably wasn't that many, probably 400 or 500. Then, after we retreated out of there, we swam the river, or waded the river and swam it too.
Swam the Yellow River?
Yeah.
That's
And
a pretty
we
big river. That's a pretty big river.
I know it, but anyway, we got across it. And,
It's a deep river. It's a deep river.
I know it.
You had to swim with your pack and everything?
Well, we didn't. All I had was my rifle at that time. And after we got across the river, everybody was wet, cold. Well, we went to the end of this rice paddy, and the sergeant said, let's split up. So we split up.
The sergeant that was wounded?
Huh?
The sergeant that was wounded?
Yeah. So we.
He's still going.
Yeah, he was still dragging. So we, part of us went to one mountain and part of us went to another.
How many were you? Like,
There was several went up on the mountain.
like how many? 10, 20?
Yeah,
30?
about 10 or 15, something like that, went up with me. And I got under this pine tree, and we hadn't been issued our winter uniforms. We still had khakis. So I pulled my field jacket off and didn't have no lining in it. I laid down on those pine needles.
What, this is winter time?
Well, yeah, it's November.
November.
3rd or 4th of November, something like that. And I got under my field jacket. I stretched it out the long way, and I got under it, and I was so tired that I went to sleep, soaking wet. And the next morning when I got up, well, I was awoke by the voice of Chinese. And I peeped out from under my coat, and there was, I don't know, 7, 8, or 10 Chinese, and they were coming direct towards me, coming down the trail. And right before they got to where my tree was, they turned and went down the side of the mountain. You know, that's
They didn't
why-
see you.
They didn't see me. Well, why they didn't see me, it snowed while I was under that tree, and I had about 1 inch of snow on the top of my jacket. And then after they went down the hill, well, I crawled out from under the tree and shook the snow off my coat, put it on.
After they went down.
Yeah, and then I got to looking around, and my bazooka squad was under the tree with me. And then there was 5 of us. We stayed behind the enemy lines.
So you got up as soon as they went by?
Oh, yes, And I got the other guys up. I didn't know who they was. There's snow on them, too. And come to find out, they were in the same squad I was, in the same company.
Hid in the woods until when?
Till 18th of November. That's when I got captured.
So you got up, brushed the snow off, and you guys started going away. And
Yeah.
what was the day? November
That
3rd
was
or
about
4th?
about the 3rd of November.
The 3rd or the 4th was when you
Yeah.
all went up on a mountain.
Yeah, 3rd or the 4th, yeah. And then we dodged the Chinese until the 18th of November, and it was getting cold, and we had chilled out. We just couldn't make it any longer without food. And we went in this house, spent the night, and
Is it abandoned house?
no, they had a man and his wife and 2 children. and we spent the night in the house, and the next morning they left, and then about an hour later, the Chinese kicked the door down.
So they probably told on you, you think?
They probably did, yeah, I'd say they did. And they kicked the door down and throwed the guns on us.
So the next morning about?
Probably 9 o'clock or say
9 o'clock?
10. Probably 9 o'clock or 10, something like that. It was early morning.
They broke the door down?
Yeah, they had them old sliding doors.
And pointed the guns at you?
Throwed the gun right in my face.
Tell you to put your hands up or something, or?
Well, I had found some old strong tobacco there in the room, and I had rolled a cigarette. And they believe in putting hot coals, in a pot for heat. And I was holding that cigarette in that hot coals to get it on fire. And they kicked that door open, And he had an old, looked like one of these old German P-38s or whatever. He throwed it down on me, and it had it cocked.
Was it a pistol?
Yeah, the pistol. He put it to my head, and he was doing like that. See?
Pistol.
So it scared me. So I
But
stood.
it surprised you. It surprised
Yeah.
you.
And when I stood up, he throwed it in my face, and me standing up and shaking it. So I squatted back down, and he still put it in against my head.
You squatted down to light your cigarette still?
I thought he was gonna shoot me. So it scared me, and I didn't know what to do. And the thing I told him, I said, shoot, damn ye, just like that. And when I said, shoot, damn ye, he uncocked his pistol and says, we no shoot ye, we treat ye. That's the words he said. And you know how he treated me?
So the,
He
the
gave-
Chinese said, me no shoot you or something?
We no shoot you, we treat you. And you know how he treated me? He gave me a roll of telephone wire, put it over my head and my shoulder, and I carried it all night.
What'd you carry?
Roll of telephone wire, heading north,
They were heading north.
north,
Because they had you guys as prisoners.
yeah.
They had like 10, 15 of you guys?
Oh no, there was probably 200 or 300.
200 or 300 American prisoners?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. When they captured you, it was just 10 or 15 of you, right?
Yeah, no, there was 5 of us got captured
Okay.
together.
Okay.
There was 15 or 20 of us went up on that mountain,
So there was 5 in the house with you. There was 5 of
but
the
on that mountain where the snow was. But while during the night or before I woke up the next morning, the most of them left. See, they got up and left. But when I woke up after the Chinese come by, there was only 5 of us left on the mountain.
Oh. They didn't tell you to wake up and leave
No,
with you?
they nobody tell you nothing. When they left, well, they left,
Wow.
So I don't know who they were anyway.
But they got captured anyway.
Probably did, yeah.
Okay.
Probably got captured before I did,
So what'd they do then? What'd they do then? They marched you some more?
Marched us to what they call Death Valley.
Death Valley. Where's that?
That's somewhere in North Korea.
No town name, just Death Valley?
Just they called it Death Valley.
A lot of people talked about the mining camp and stuff. That's not the mining
I
camp.
wasn't in the mining
No.
camp.
So
They had a mining camp
yeah.
and a bean camp,
Okay.
but I was in Death Valley.
And what was that like?
It was just an old valley with a bunch of Korean buildings. And we stayed there probably, I don't know, a week, 10 days, something like that. We stayed there till, I'll tell you how long we stayed. We stayed till the day before Christmas of 1950.
And this is getting cold now.
Yeah, and we went into this camp, POW Camp 5. We went into it a Christmas Day, 1950, or started in it, put it that way.
Christmas Day.
And the Americans bombed it ahead of us, and most of the town was burnt. So they retreated us back to Death Valley.
So before you got to Camp 5, it was bombed
They bombed it.
when you got there, so there was nothing left.
There wasn't hardly anything left. So they turned us around and took us back to the camp that we had just left from. And then January the 25th, we went back into the camp, and they had put a Red Cross up, and that didn't bother us.
Who put the Red Cross up? The Red Cross?
Chinese did.
So now you're in Camp 5.
And I stayed there till closing time,
That was 1953.
53.
What day was that? Stayed until...
I left the camp on 4th or 5th or something like that of August. And come
1953, right?
down, yeah, in 53. And we came down to the 38th parallel, come down Freedom Village, wherever there was released.
They took you, did they take, how many people were in this camp?
At one time it's probably 2,000 or 3,000. And they kept on moving them out, and they died. A lot of them died, and this, and that, and the other. But anyway, we was released on the 11th of August of 1953.
So you stayed in the camp until August 4th or 5th, and then they
Yeah.
took you by train or truck?
We come by train, come down to Freedom Village, and I was released on the 11th of August, 1953.
What town did they take you to get released?
What
What
town?
town? Kaesong or something?
No, it was Incheon.
Oh. By train.
Yeah. And then we got on a boat, come home.
How many were you?
2,500 there was 2,500 POWs on the boat I was on.
You know the name of the boat?
Yeah, General W.F. Hayes.
It was just a big battleship?
Mm-hmm.
And where'd you land up?
San Francisco.
What'd you eat while you were at the prison?
Fish heads and rice, millet, just anything that they could force you to eat.
No heat.
No heat.
How'd you stay warm?
They just slept together like hogs.
What'd you do during the day for all that time?
Well, you just sit around, daydream, and in the summertime, we was on that lake and we could swim.
Did they try to like convert you to communism?
Yeah,
What'd they do?
they'd lie to you and tell you that they'd tell you that the Chinese killed so many Americans and that they had to and the Americans would retreat back so far. They'd tell you some of the darndest lies ever was. Of course, we didn't know no better because we didn't have no radios or no nothing.
Now this is winter. What kind of clothing did you have? You had that light clothing.
That's all I had until the spring of the first year. And then come spring, they taken our shoes. They thought we'd escape, you know. And so they taken our shoes.
So you had to go barefoot?
Yeah. Give us they give us a padded uniform with cotton padding. And you'd stay warm with it, you know.
On the ship, you went to San Francisco. Did anybody meet you there? Any relatives?
No, did nobody meet me. I left San Francisco and flew in to Louisville.
Did you keep in contact with other POW friends?
Yeah. I go to a lot of the reunions, but I haven't been to one in the last 2 or 3 years because I had open heart surgery and a lot of other surgeries, you know, and I just haven't been able.
Did you get any medals or honors?
I got about every medal that they put out.
Whoa.
I got 2 Purple Hearts, Combat Infantry Badge, POW Medal,
Hold on. 2 Purple Hearts and
Combat Infantry Badge, the POW Medal, and I got 10 Combat Battle Stars.
10 combat battles?
Yeah. United Nations Service Medal, South Korean Service Medal. I got
UN Service Medal, and then what?
I got the South Korean Service Medal, Good Conduct Medal. I got just about every medal that they put out in the Korean War.
Wow. How'd you get the 2 Purple Hearts?
Well, I got wounded. I got one for being wounded.
That day in the face.
Yeah, and I got the other one for being a POW. Clinton, when Bill Clinton was president,
Uh-huh.
he authorized a Purple Heart for POWs.
What's the most memorable part of your Korean War experience?
Of being in that camp, I guess.
Camp 5.
Yeah.
How'd the war experience impact you till today? Did it impact you at all, or anything? Any nightmares, anything
Well,
like
I
that?
still have flashbacks. I dream of being in the camp, but I have never yet had a dream of leaving the camp.
Did it impact your family at all while you were there? Or?
I don't know. I guess they had their hardships like I did. My mother got a letter from me in 16 months.
It took 16 months to get to you?
And then from the time I left home, it was 18 months before I got a letter from home.
So your mom wrote a letter and it finally got to you after 8 months?
But she couldn't, she didn't know where I was. She had to get a letter from me first, you know. So she heard from me in 16 months from the time I left.
So they mailed them to the U.S. and how did the letters get from the
Went through Peking, China.
Peking? How did they brought them to the prisoner of war camp? The letters?
Yeah, they let us write letters, and our mail was sent to China and shipped out from China to
Wow.
U.S.
And the letters coming in came to Pink. How did they? So they just had your name on the letter, and they probably had your old address where they thought you were, or something.
Yeah, no, they had the right address because, see, my mother didn't write to me until she heard from me.
Okay.
And then when she heard from me, she used that address, that I had
Okay.
on it.
So you had put down Camp 5 or something.
Yeah, Camp 5, POW Camp 5, Pyeongtaek, North Korea.
What would you like to say for the people of the future about the Korean War?
Well, the only thing that I always thought of it is, I don't know whether we was over there for any good or not, but when you're in the service, you gotta go where your superior sends you. And I didn't have no regret of really being a POW because I volunteered for the service, and I really didn't have a gripe of coming. And the VA is good to me. I get all my services from the VA.
Do you have any other final thoughts about the war that you want to tell your grandkids or anything?
Oh, I don't know. My oldest son wants me to write a book, and I know enough, really to write a book, but I just haven't got down to it yet. I've put a lot on tape that he's got. And
Audio tape?
Sir?
Audio tape or videotape?
Just a regular tape, not video. And he says he's going to write a book one day.
Well, thank you.
Okay.